Welcome back to episode 6, we think. I think that's what it is, of Insider Secrets. And today we're going to be talking about leaky boundaries. And when we were rehearsing this, you guys, I started crying because there are so many ways that boundaries can impact you energetically. And we ended up wanting to really bring it down to this kind of simple space, which is where we're trying to shine right now, of what is one kind of mindset tidbit that you can take away that is helpful to you around the idea of boundaries. And then on Kate's side, what is one let me bring gives you like a sense of, I would say, sort of a breath of fresh air, right? Like a sense of peace, like, okay, that I feel a little more protected now. So welcoming Kate. Hey, Kate.
Hi there.
Hi.
It's great to
Hi.
see you.
So good to see you. This is, God, such a hot topic.
Hmm.
It really is. Did you hear me say that I kind of started crying thinking about it because there's so many
Oh,
pieces to, yeah, I feel pretty emotional about this one because in my own body, and in my life as an entrepreneur, certainly, or as a mom, I've seen how um, not putting my oxygen mask on first has impacted me.
right.
And to set the stage, I would just say that simple thing of not knowing where to place a boundary, or allowing leakiness about a boundary,
Yeah.
um, costs more. It's like there's an exponential cost, in my opinion. It's not like one step forward if you allow a leak.
Right.
Excuse me, one step back if you allow a leak. It's like you think you're just, oh, I'm just gonna let this little thing, let go, but
It's like a
it's
snowball effect.
it is.
It really, like, you let one little like thing slide and then it keeps growing and growing. And then you are, I mean, so many things. That's, the fastest way to burn out. Um, Exhausted, you're upset, you're resentful. It's just a lot of negative emotions.
Yeah. And all of those emotions, all the negative emotions, have an
They
opposite,
do.
right? They all have an opposite emotion. And so if you're being pulled down, into resentment or judgment or frustration, then you are way out of the experience of, positivity, love, expansion, and you're operating at a lower frequency. Like I said to Kate when we were rehearsing that I think that kind of witnessing this is what got me started on a study of metaphysics, because I could not figure out why, if in either in my practice or in my own life, if something negative happened,
Hmm.
uh, why it would cost so much, why
Right.
there was so much more suffering. And to be honest, I'm no genius. Like, I still haven't completely figured this out. I'm still studying it, but there is a lot of power to be gained in what I would call, on my side, like preventive maintenance, or proactive care. You know,
Right.
the things like sort of leaning into, I deserve to feel good, and when I feel good, my world feels good too. I feel more love for my family. I feel more connected to, my kids or my clients or
Hmm.
whatever. And I'm just operating in more of a state of flow, you know.
Right.
But in order to have that experience, I have to basically be discerning about how I share and use my energy, right?
Yeah. I think it even like really goes back to the basics of, it starts with rewiring your brain to really be okay putting yourself first. Like we, especially as women, are so wired to put, the oxygen mask on others first. Like that we are in service to others, especially in our business too. We get in it to a lot of us to help others to make a bigger impact, so we're always in that mindset of service, but it takes a lot of rewiring to be in service of yourself first, and then the trickle down effect from there.
Yeah,
it does. And so on the system side, I'm thinking about something that,
Mhm.
you and I've talked about a lot, which is kind of cleaning up access points. Like
Yes,
right?
it's a
Like not,
huge one.
yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, so I think we live in a day and age where people can get a hold of us anytime that they want. And I think that that has a lot of positives, but it also has a lot of negatives. And we just need to be aware of what works for us. So I talk to a lot of my clients about, sure, there's all these options for you to communicate with your clients, you to communicate with your team, but what do you want? Do you want people to be able, do you want to have people on your phone in your text messages? Do you want to keep that all to a virtual space, like using Slack? Still an instant messenger, but not as harsh as someone in your text messages. Or do you want to like keep your client communication and your team communication to a platform that you have to just log on to a website or an app to access? It's not as like forward facing, something like just keeping all of your team tasks and communication in Asana, keeping all of your client communication in Basecamp. So like really what feels good for you is what you have to do when you're like setting up your systems, what you really need to think about. And then communicating that, like it all comes down to communication with your clients, with your team. Like, hey, you can Slack me, expect a 24-hour like response time.
Mhm.
Setting that expectation that you're not available 24/7.
Mhm.
And you don't have to be, and
Mhm.
be okay with that. Your clients will be, your team will be, as long as they know when they'll hear from you. That's all they need.
Yeah, I would add on to that one
Hmm.
and say that if you, first of all, I love that. And as you know, having supported me for a few years, I've evolved in this way. I mean, I had
We all
clients in
do.
Slack, we all do. And like 8 years ago, I had clients in my text messages. And once in a while, I still have a client on my text messages. And when that happens, I'm like, oh, I need to pull that out
Hmm.
because it's easier for me to support clients when I have them all, in like a bundle, like
Mhm.
they're in one spot. And so having them all in Basecamp for me has been a game changer. I
Well, and
love
I
that.
think, something to be said about that point quickly is your clients get better, you serve your clients better when you are a little bit more compartmentalized with that. Like if you're in the middle of, watching some terrifying movie and you get a client Slack, like you're not going to be in your best moment of service. Or, you're running around doing all your errands for the day and a client texts you, like you're not present enough to serve that client. So keeping it a little bit more compartmentalized gets better results for your clients.
Absolutely. It definitely does. And we're evolving out of email as a society, we still use it, right?
Hmm.
It's how we receive information, but it's not about communication. And recently I had a client send me a bunch of emails about a project, and it came at a time when I was traveling and I couldn't review the materials and it wasn't in Basecamp. And so that slowed my response time. Like I would have got back to that person, and they had been taught, but they had just kind of forgotten that they needed to use email. But to another point on that is that I like to, one way you can protect yourself. This is kind of subtle. Is you basically let's see, under promise and over deliver.
Oh,
Okay, so
yes.
yes,
Love
under
that.
promise and over deliver, right? You tell your clients,
Mhm.
I've seen you do this, Kate, like, oh, it's 24-hour response time in Slack, when really it's the same day,
Yes.
right? It's the same day, or I'll tell people that it's going to be 48 hours when really it's only 24. And the reason
Yes.
you're doing that is because you want your client, you want, first of all, a buffer for yourself. You're training yourself to feel better about yourself. Okay, you guys, I'm going
Yes.
to say
Oh,
that
I
again.
love that mindset
I'm going to
shift.
say that again.
Mhm.
Okay, you're training yourself to feel better about yourself. And
Mhm.
this takes practice. It really takes practice. And so, those of us who've been wired to like over deliver, we're, very empathic. We're like, oh, I'm going to get my needs met by giving you a piece of my liver and kidney. That's a pattern. Okay, that's a
Mhm.
pattern that a lot of us have. Oh, I have two of these. Take one. That does not serve you. You need to evolve out of that. And so there are many ways you do it. Of course, one of the key ways, in case my experience and opinion, is you have support. You have other people on
Mhm.
your team. So you feel supported because then you're serving yourself, you're serving your clients, you're also serving your team by being well supported. But in terms of the like sort of the practical little things that you do, if you what did I say? Like you under promise and over deliver, then your client is like, oh, I thought that was gonna take longer.
It's like a little longer.
Yeah. And I heard back right away. I got the answer I needed right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It is so it it speaks volumes, not only to your clients, but it really like you hit it out of the park with that. It really speaks volumes to yourself and really instills that, trust back in yourself. And it also gives life happens all the time, and it gives you some grace for that to happen.
Right. Because if life happens and you are aware of the deadline and you're stressing out about it, then energetically you're affecting both your experience and the client's experience. And we've all been there.
Yeah.
Like, who hasn't procrastinated on a college paper and then you're like, oh, for sure I can get it done between 9 and midnight. And it's like, there's no effing way. Like, I am way too tired to deal with that right now. So the more that you build in protections for yourself around what you're doing for clients, whatever your service model is, the more that you get to enjoy being in what Gay Hendricks teaches as your zones of excellence and your zones of genius. Like, now that I have all of my clients in Basecamp and all of their work is in there, I love going in there. I love going through their work. Years back where I was getting sent all kinds of stuff in email or getting texts at all hours, there would be times where I would really have to, honestly, you guys, kind of drag myself to deal with stuff,
Right.
And you mentioned, Kate, that somebody that was using the platform of Voxer and receiving 12-minute, or multiple voice memos,
Yeah.
right? And that they had to right size that.
It's true. And it really comes down to sitting with yourself for a little bit and just like tuning in, how do I want to work? How do I want to receive information? And it's okay to ask for that. It's okay to build that into your systems. You don't need to, you're serving your clients or you're serving your team, and it needs to work for you in order for those to be successful and for you to get the best results. And it's okay to ask for what you want at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to.
It does. And another piece that came up for me is this idea of the Peter Principle, which is something I learned about years ago. And maybe you guys have heard of it. It's an antiquated management principle that is no longer used, thank God. But basically, the Peter Principle states that we will rise to our level of incompetence. And it was used as a way to keep people in boxes in like corporate America. Like they'd get a performance review and it's like, oh, they did good on this and they did bad on that. So that's where they have to stay. And then, some decades later, growth mindset was uncovered and people began to recognize like we can neurally reprogram ourselves, like we can expand. I mean, you could become fluent in French now, right? You can learn to ride a unicycle. Well, I mean, maybe that's a stretch, but you know what I mean? Like you can
I think
grow.
the unicycle is easier than the French.
Probably. Well, it depends. For me, I think French would be easier than the unicycle. At any rate, we all have access to a growth mindset. But when we are challenged, particularly in areas where we have childhood trauma or we have, DNA level trauma or blocks, when we hit those spots, right? Those like what I would call like a Peter Principle moment of kind of feeling like you're up against the wall, the experience physiologically is very overwhelming. Okay. It's very overwhelming because you really can feel in that moment. And so I'm just asking you, if you're listening to us right now, like to think about that for yourself. If you have had an experience where you've really felt challenged around some childhood issues, around money trauma, around a big, deep fear, around a skill you're trying to build, such as parenting, where you feel like I cannot do this. I don't have the skill or the strength. I've seen this honestly in sales conversations recently where people are, they want so much to feel supported. They want so much to feel like they can expand, but they have a difficult time stepping into the vibration of worthiness or the vibration of opportunity. They get stuck. And what is important to recognize that works, that applies to this whole boundary conversation, is you want to allow the idea that more is available for you. You know, the world is here to support you. And if you're stuck in a place in your business or in your relationships, if you're challenged, then that means you get to grow, you get to receive more.
Looking at it from what can I learn from this? How can I grow with this? And that positive lens versus, letting that be what holds you back.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So overcoming, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but it's like really kind of forcing the habit to find the joy in things and leading with that lens in the world. Then I mean, it's so easy for us to fall into the negative mindset, the negative, just my day's going, this moment is going bad, so my whole day is going to go bad, and that is just what it is, rather than just like, okay, that sucked, how can I like learn from that and just move on and find my joy in the day.
Yeah, that's beautifully said.
Mhm.
I mean, another piece of this, I've always been fascinated by like celebrity crash and burn stories, and I think this actually applies here. And I've talked to you before, Kate, about like when Shawn Mendes crashed in
Mhm.
the middle of a tour a
So you
couple of years ago,
had a
and
great blog post
I did
about
I
this, so if
a
anyone
blog
wants
post.
to
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
find that, it's a good
We'll
one.
have, we'll have to link it on the
Mhm.
YouTube. But basically, he was in the middle of a world tour, and like those are expensive to set up. We all know, like lots and lots of people, lots of dates, and he hit the wall, and he's very young, and so it was understandable that he would hit the wall. But rather than, basically asking for more, and learning how to protect himself, he quit. He quit the tour.
Mhm.
And you could say, and there are many articles you're probably going to Google this on people. It's like, oh, well, he had a mental health crisis. Yes, of course he did. Absolutely. I totally respect that. And he could have chosen to be supported in a
Mhm.
different way. And he didn't have that vibration going yet, right? He wasn't ready to hold the strength of that level of team yet, right?
Exactly. And I think, and you're probably going here, but on the like using someone very popular these days on the flip side that tours huge stadiums and for years on end, talking about the Taylor Swift,
Taylor Swift.
who continues to do it. And I'm sure, like 99.9% positive she is human and has human days where she just doesn't want to do it. But she has the support and has the structures and has the boundaries in place for herself to continue doing it and to
Oh,
continue showing
yes.
up.
Yes, I didn't even think about her, although we've talked about her
Mm.
before, but what a fantastic example. And
Yeah.
I saw a photograph of her. I mean, we've all seen a ton of
Yeah.
pictures of this tour, and probably, people have watched it too, but one picture really stood out in my mind, and it was her at the stadium up in Seattle in the summertime, which is a very, very beautiful city in the summertime. And it was a gorgeous summer night. And that is a football stadium, right? It's
Hmm.
huge. And she is so in her power in front of that audience, and they are full of love and full of a happy vibration. It's just very, very
It
obvious. You
is.
can feel it, and so that's because she keeps on, asking for more, surviving, saying no,
Hmm.
growing her team, building her boundaries. I mean, that's like a perfect example of
Hmm.
somebody who is like, yeah, I need more. I don't want to have people in my text messages.
Right. Unless I
Yeah,
invite them there.
unless I invite them there. And so what we love to teach and what we
Hmm.
offer here for people is this experience of, it can be incremental. Like when you come into containers with us, we are all about protecting your nervous system. Like the
Hmm.
most important thing that we do far and away is we are there to help you have the experience of up leveling in a very grounded way, So you don't, you might wiggle a little bit, you might wobble a little bit, but you're not going to fall.
Well, that's beautifully said. Yeah, I think we've worked together long enough. We do that for each other and we bring it to our clients. We
Mhm.
really try to, there's a million different ways you can grow, set up, scale your business, and really comes down to what feels good for
Mhm.
you.
Mm. I can feel that in my body,
Hmm.
and you get to experiment with it. That's one of the cool things
Yeah.
about being an entrepreneur is you get to go, well, I want to try that, and if it doesn't work, I just move on. I mean, George Clooney teaches, everybody does really, but he's so cute. And I've seen some videos of him saying, like, success is built on failure. And
Yes.
so we are here to help you, with, you can experiment, you can test it, and you can come back and go, you know what, that blew me out, that freaked me out,
Yeah.
that overwhelmed me, or I didn't like it. And it's okay. Like, you guys, we've seen it all. At
We
this
have.
point, we really have.
And the great thing about that, though, is that you get to change.
Hmm.
You get to do it differently. You
Hmm.
can just, hey, I know this isn't working for me. Tomorrow, I'm not doing it this way.
That's right.
And you get to make those decisions.
That's right. That's right. And if you have no idea whatsoever what those decisions could be or should be, then you actually need us, because we have enough experience here to offer you templates that could or would work for you, that you then can feel into,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying this like plug and play, like that's not how we work. That's one
No.
thing that burned out my nervous system, you guys,
Hmm.
was my nervous system was fried out by being fed, this is how you do it. I mean, it's a great song, but I don't like doing it that way.
No, we're very much done with you. Like we're there with you, coaching, guiding, giving you options, and helping you make the decision from those options.
That's right. Yeah. It's just a love fest. So
It is. It's fun.
it's such an honor. Well, Kate, thank you so much
Thank you.
for meeting with me today for
Thank
this.
you. This was
Yes,
wonderful. We'll do this again next week.
absolutely. We'll see you guys next week. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye bye.